We exist! Yay! The suits exist. I mean, for the most part, the heads exist. Got the necks on now. It looks a little funny on the head base, but that's because it's longer than the head base, which is why there's this fold here. On a person, it doesn't look as bad. It doesn't look bad at all, actually, but on the head it does. But we also have our big old zippers in the back. They do go all the way up. I managed somehow to sew the zipper in upside down, so that was a whoopsie on my part. But it's also my own head, so I didn't feel like fixing it. So that is what that is. But we do have that all the way through. We got pockets sewn in the front for our battery packs, all that good stuff. All that's really left to be done is the eyeliner around the eye blanks. The problem is this is all I have for black felt, and it's very stiff. It's not what I usually use. This thicker, floppier stuff. You know, this is not this. The problem is I really don't think I'd like the gray around the eyes. I don't know. And it's like I could do the gray and see if I like it. If not, pull it off later. Replacing the eyeliner is actually really easy to do. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think it would look bad. I just think I'd prefer the black liner because it's darker. Because like this gray matches closer to this medium gray than it does to this dark. And I don't know how it's going to look. Oh, that's an even better question. Because I do want to do the same eyeliner on both of them. Get out of here, Sharpies. Too many of them. I don't know how this gray would look. Because it really just kind of blends in. Not quite. It's a little bit darker. I think we could do the gray. I think we could get away with the gray. And then if I don't like it, I'll go back and change it later. I'll just buy some more black felt. Like I said, it's an easy change to do. So if I end up not liking it, it's not like it's the end of the world. I just personally prefer doing the black eyeliner as much as I can. Like on most of my suits, I find that they just look better with the really dark eyeliner. Although I have done a couple suits with the lighter eyeliner. In fact, I think I did one with white eyeliner at some point. I did the bunny. The jackalope had white eyeliner. But we're gonna go with this kind of heather gray, I guess. Which, the only thing I don't like about it is that it is heather. So it's not like a solid gray, it's got kind of like this speckly coloring to it. Which is fine. It just doesn't look as good as a solid gray would, I feel like. But oh well. It'll still work because it is a whole gray color palette. I find that like gray eyeliner does not look good on like brightly colored suits. Like I'm trying to think of a good example. Most fursuits, though, gray does not look good as an eyeliner on because it feels washed out. Like it feels, if you're doing a really brightly colored suit, it feels too muted. So then you don't get that real pop of contrast that people look for in their eyeliners. You'd be better off doing a colored eyeliner or a white eyeliner even over doing a gray one. But since these guys overall are a pretty muted color palette because they are just grays, there isn't any black, In fact, the furthest we go on in either direction is white, so this is pretty dark. So we should be able to go all the way around. And I think that'll look good. The real question is this enough for 2? Because it is a pretty long strip. So I think this might actually be... Oh yeah, this should be plenty to do both of them. Which is cool, because normally when I cut strips it's with smaller sheets of felt. So I usually have to cut 2 strips per set. I might be able to get away with just doing 1 strip per set. Oh, I was like, my hot glue gun has escaped. The office has been a mess lately, and it's mostly just because life itself has been chaotic, and there's currently not a lot of room. So everything's just kind of everywhere at the moment. Very much everything. It's definitely a lot better than it was when I was doing the LEDs, because then everything was everywhere because I was working on the heads and the hand paws at the same time. So it's better than that, which is, you know, good. But it's still a little chaotic in here with stuff, because like I've got a box of polyfill that needs to go where that bag is, but I need to use that bag first, otherwise it doesn't fit. I ordered a box of fur for an upcoming commission. Still have to confirm if that fur is even usable, because Howl's been having some issues lately, it seems like. In which case, I don't know what I'm doing with that fur if I can't use it, and we'll have to find another solution. But that's a future me problem, is what that is. Current me's problem is trimming around the eyes well enough for when I glue. Because the last thing we want is a bunch of super long tufts sticking out around the eyeballs. And then, of course, since we shave, there's a bunch of little fuzzies in there, too. I need to get a Q-tip and just kind of go around. Because I am not good at 3D modeling, but I did model these bases myself with a mix of 3D Builder and Blender. I like 3D Builder because I find it's easier to use. I know the newer laptops do not support 3D Builder, unfortunately. They discontinued it. But it was a very good program for doing simple shapes, right? So I could do cylinders, I could do squares. If I get something off of Thingiverse that's a more complex shape, it was really easy for me to slightly modify surfaces and stuff like that to be what I wanted. Like I printed a Gasha machine, and it had diamonds on the front for the windows. I didn't want the diamonds, I wanted paw prints, so I was able to go in, fill those in, and then put paw prints for the windows instead, really easily through 3D Builder. Blender is a pain in my ass. So these, I started off in 3D Builder, and then I used Blender to actually smooth out their curves. Sir. He's being a needy little butt right now. Go look out the window or something, bud. No. No, I just let you out. Go. Go. He's being a butt today. But it's also snowing today, and he loves the snow. Like, it's a problem. Loves the snow. But he'll never guess that the glue is hot. So I'm just gonna go around and try not to splooge everywhere. That was a big glob of glue. I don't usually put that much on there, but I wasn't ready for it to come out. I thought it was still cold. I realize I probably got this turned in the most inconvenient way for everybody. Nobody can see what I'm doing. Hold on. I'll rotate him in a second here. There we go. And then we'll rotate the me, maybe. If all my cords will behave. I've got a bazillion cords over here for computers, and I didn't even plug in the power cord for my computer. This could be a short stream today, guys. That's alright. Ooh, in other news, for those of you who watch my gaming streams, I was able to actually go back into the game and, first off, beat the level with Sandy that was beating my butt. Turns out when you don't have a crap ton of lag because your computer can't keep up with gaming and streaming at the same time, games are a little bit easier. It was still pretty hard, though. Took me a couple tries. But also, the game with the crates that kept bugging out, I finally was able to beat it without it bugging out. So, we will actually be able to finish our playthrough of Battle for Bikini Bottom. Which is great, because I was a little worried we weren't going to be able to. I was kind of sad about that, not gonna lie. There we go. Now, the reason I use softer felt rather than the stiff felt for my eyeliner is because I want to do removable eyelids later, and the stiff felt you can't Velcro to, but Velcro sticks to the softer, floppier felts just fine. It does wear down over time, so then you have to like refelt them or brush out your felt a little more to get it to have some good grip, but nothing worse than a magnet, you know? And honestly, easier to install than magnets. Magnets are a pain in my butt, and I hate them. It is ridiculously hard to find consistently strong magnets. There we go. That's one eyeball lined. And now we're gonna go, I think I still have enough to do the second one, right? Yeah, we still got plenty to do the second one. But since it is so thin, not thin, but floppy, you know, it's not very tightly packed. What I usually do is I will cut a fat strip of felt and I pull it just enough to where it kind of shrinks down and tightens. So like you can see, this strip is fairly thin. It was originally as wide as this strip. So when you take it and you pull it, it shrinks up quite a bit. And that way you still get the gripability, I guess, of these softer felts, while also having a little bit of a stronger base to glue onto for the eyeliner. Oh, dang it. I also follow a pretty particular path, specifically when lining around my eyes. The direction that I go when I line my eyes doesn't really matter, but the way the felt lays does. So I'll be able to show you here in a second. That's when I finish. And I line it the way I do for a couple reasons, right? So like one is to make the bridge of the nose look wider than it is. Because in reality, the bridge of this nose is only an inch wide. The fur makes it look a little bit thicker, and then on top of that, the felt makes it seem a little bit more thick than it actually is. I'm going to go back in. There's a little bit of glue showing here that's going to drive me nuts. I'll have to get some isopropyl and fix that. But I don't know if I like him better with the eyeliner. Honestly, I like him better without. Oh well. But it doesn't look so bad on camera. But maybe it's just me being nitpicky. Because like on camera, he looks great. I love him. I think I really just want to do like the black liner and not the dark gray. But when I am lining, I will go flat on the inner edge of the eye blank, right? And then when I come up to this edge, I come out so it sits next to the eye blank rather than on the inner edge of the eye blank. And then when I come back to the bridge, I go back to the inside of the eye blank again. And that just, first off, this being the way this is, gives grip for the Velcro eyelids later on. But this here is really just to cover and clean up that raw edge of the eye blanks. So we don't want it being on top here and making it look like he's got no nose, you know? We want him to look like he actually has a bridge on his face. We don't want to cover up any details we did. I'm also just trimming around his little 3D printed detail here, because there are still some extra hairs that didn't get shaved. And I'd argue that this is a pretty important part of the suit design. So this is a part that I'm going to be nitpicky about. This and his hair, those were the parts I was nitpicky about. Because I feel like that's what really brings the character out, you know? That's what makes him visually, I guess. Is the hairstyle and of course the LED. There we go. So he definitely needs a bit of a brushing. But otherwise, I think he's pretty much done. He's got fur on him. Not his fur, Bingus fur. So yeah, that's this guy. Yeah, see, I've got spots on my zippers that are just weird. Where's my brush? So when I stitched the zippers into the fur, I stitched it backwards. So now I have an issue of there's some fur stuck in the stitching that is making stuff look weird. Which on this head isn't super noticeable because I've already brushed it a bit. I've gotten most of the fur out of said seams. Most. But on the other head it is quite noticeable. It also helps that this one's more a gradient on the back, because it goes, like right here, it's light to dark, light to dark. But then it goes medium to really dark to medium to light. So even though there's like a lot of funky details here, it's not bad. And then I have this one straight line that I'm trying to have look nice, because this is It's very hard to see it on this suit because, again, there's not a lot of contrast right here, especially with the lighting I have in the house right now. It's very warm lighting and it's kind of dim, but you know, it's just me making fursuits on hard mode for fun. But there is that, if you look at the back of his jacket, there's like a boop, 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 boop kind of deal. So I want that to stand out because I'm going to be putting the Android symbol. Preferably as a pin. I think I'm going to pin it on. That way it sits on top of the fur and it isn't part of the fur. But I might also just make the patch embroidered and then I might stitch it onto the back. It depends on how I feel. But at this point I'm considering it more of a decoration than physically part of the character. I would also like to make him a beanie, because I think that'd be hilarious to make him the dark beanie. And just stance. There we go. You stay right there, buddy. And now we'll do this guy. And this guy is also done, and also definitely needs a brushing. And a little bit of a trim around his LEDs. This guy, though, I stitched his zipper in properly, so we're good. Actually, like you can see all these little random tufts that are sticking up all weird, and that's just because I haven't brushed out that zipper seam yet. We got a little extra thread loop here. That was hiding on me. There we go. And then, of course, it does not help that all of the fur is, for some reason, very staticky. I say for some reason, it's winter. But all of his fur is extremely staticky, so it's wanting to stick up everywhere and just be a pain in my butt. Tell you what. So yeah, I'm really just kind of... And if stuff doesn't want to come out of these seams, I might end up just trimming whatever has gotten stuck. Like right here, I got a lot of dark fur that isn't really wanting to pull out from this white section, this white strip. It looks a lot better, but I still think I'm actually going to have to either go back with the needle and try picking it, or I'm going to have to trim it out, because that ain't working. There we go. That's much better. And then, of course, this guy also has the same deal with the straight line that I'm trying to have, and cutting a straight line is somehow one of the most difficult things to do on a fursuit. I'm not really sure how it's managed to be like that, but it doesn't help when it's long pile, right? Because I want to cut just the color that I'm cutting and not the color underneath. I find that that gives you a more smooth look while also having your crisp lines. I know a lot of people kind of just sort of hack at it, you know, like they might just and then it cuts through all the layers straight down. That's what I'm trying to avoid, though, because I just personally don't like that look. I want my lines to be crisp, but I want my cutting to not show up as cut fur, you know? It doesn't really make sense, but oh well. And I'm being very selective in what details I am and am not cutting, because like I don't think it's necessary to cut the collar line on the suit. I think that this collar line shows up just fine, but I really did want the crispness of this angle to show up, so I did trim that a bit. You know, and stuff like that. Like I really want this angle to show up, and since the fur is long pile, it's not really wanting to naturally, so I have to trim that to get that to show up how I want. Okay, brush that right out of there. And then of course we just really need to brush the rest of our head seam anyway, so that way everything lays nice, because right now we got a lot of fur tufts that are just kind of stuck in our stitching from the zipper, and they are not vibing. And of course everything's sticking up all staticky like. It's awful. It's dumb and awful. And awful and dumb. There we go. I might have to spritz him down with some water to get him to stop staticky. Do I have a spritzy? Not in here, I don't, apparently. Usually have a bottle. And it's empty. Cool. I'll go get a spritzy. We'll be right back. Have a second. He gets to smell like oranges today. But this will just really help with the static issue. Ooh, orange. I know he was going to smell like orange. Then I got hit with it and it just smells really good. I love that orange smell. But yeah, again, it just looks kind of funny right now because it's on the Ed head, and it's not made to fit the Ed head, it's made to fit people, which unfortunately the Ed head neckline is not made for. There we go. That is much better. So now I'm gonna go about my business and start gluing this on there. But first, not scissors. I got clumps of hair in my mouth and on my nose. There we go. There's a lot of fur going on over here, and forest standing directly behind me. Can I help you, sir? I'm just trimming any of the hairs around the eyes that did not get shaved properly, so they're a little excessively long, just because we don't want them sticking out later. Because that would suck. It also sucks if they're like all. I have had, when I very first started making suits, and I didn't shave as short as I do now, I had issues of the eyeliner coming off or being really loose around the eyes because the hair was long. So trimming a little extra around the eyes can help, along with, you know, gluing onto the actual eye base and not just the fur. But like I said, I glue my stuff weird, so I'm going to, because you guys can't really see really well with how dark they are, I'm going to, yeah, there we go, turn that up a bit so you guys can see, so it's not so dark. There we go. I had been fiddling with the video before stream, but apparently none of my settings saved, so that was a whoopsie on my part. Hi, how you doing? I'm doing good. I'm almost done with these fursuit heads. This is the last little bit, is just getting the eyeliner on. Trying very, very hard to get these heads done before the new year. Which we waited until the very, very last second to do. Because I'm smart like that, and I'm real good at procrastinating. And it's not really like a deadline I have to do, as much as it's a deadline I wanted to do. Because I really want both of these suits done by February for a con. Which is the ideal. And I figure if I can get the heads done by the end of the year, so today, then that would give me enough time to do everything else that I need to get done before the con. Because we have the hand paws done, and that was going to be our big time stealer, because it had the finger escapes and all the electronics and stuff. The heads had the other half of the electronics, and of course are a big time stealer anyway, just because they're heads. So, I know it, this is the last little bit, is getting this eyeliner on, which I'm now getting glue everywhere. Hooray. Today is not it, I tell you what. This is the last thing I have to do, is glue this eyeliner on. Which is not the color of eyeliner I was originally going to go for. I was originally going to go for solid black, but I am out of solid black, so we're going with Heather. We're going with Heather Gray, because that was our other option. Didn't give myself a whole lot of choices here today, but that's okay. This is always a piece that's easy to replace at a later date if I want to, so... If I decide I don't like it and I want to actually switch over to the black, it'll be easy enough to do. It'll take like 10 minutes tops. I'm more worried about getting them done. Clearly, past me was not good at planning. Current me is not much better, so... You're so close, and I'm trying very hard not to get hot glue everywhere. That's the big thing at the moment, is don't get hot glue literally everywhere. That is my one goal. That's my New Year's resolution. Don't get hot glue everywhere. Which, on the other hand, I already did get a tiny bit of glue. But that's an easy fix. I'll just need some isopropyl for it. We're vibing, we're existing, we're doing it. Kind of. Oh, my nose is running like crazy. It's very cold in here with the big old window. And we're getting some snow today, so it's kind of just cold in general. Which I did promise the dogs that after this we're going to go play in the snow. So I have to hold up to my promise. There we go. And that's one eyeball lined. You can't really see it on him because he's got all the darker fur around his eyes anyway, but he does have a lined eyeball. Now he's got to do his other one. Swoopy swoopy. I'm gonna try to not set things on fire. Would be nice. There we go. And there's fur bits. I wonder why there's fur bits. Real fur, not fake fur. Because Bingus be shedding. All the time, always. Pull it nice and tight so it's not a super fat line. I'm gonna have to trim that, I think, on the other eye, because it doesn't look like a straight curve, even though it is. I've attempted to make a suit before. I'm not new to sewing and crafting, so I thought it would be doable. Even with my previous knowledge, I seriously underestimated. Yeah, fursuits really be like that. For me, like, cosplays are the hard part. I went into fursuit making with very little knowledge on how to sew, and I would argue I still don't really know how to sew. Like, I know a blanket stitch, and I know a straight stitch, and I know a ladder stitch, and a whip stitch, but that's about it. Like, I can use my sewing machine decently enough to get stuff done, and that's about it. But, like, a lot of my knowledge outside of that is pretty sad. My crafting knowledge was also pretty sad, too, when I started. Like, I'd never worked with upholstery foam before. I pretty much just started fursuit making on a whim because I saw a YouTube video from Mugiwara that was demonstrating how to make feet paws. And I was like, I can't do that. I could do that. I can't do that. And then I did that. And now I do that all the time. And I'm kind of mad at college me, not gonna lie. Not really. I love what I do. But, sometimes I also hate what I do. Like, it's a lot of work, you know, which is fine. I don't mind it. But some days I'm just like, I really hate sewing. Or I really hate upholstery foam. Or I really hate hot glue. Like, there's just some days where I hate every single aspect of my job for no reason. Other than because I have to do it. But, like, I do genuinely enjoy making fursuits when I don't hate it. And, you know, when I'm also not cooking my fingers off, that is a requirement. Don't burn off the fingies. I didn't think that was one I'd have to make, but here we are. Yeah, no, fursuits. It took me a long time, and by a long time I mean like 2 years. But 2 years of a lot of, like, actual work. Not on and off work, not... Like, I was making... I think in my first year I made 15 suits, or something like that. It's been a while since I actually looked at the numbers. I've made close to 50 suits in the last 4 years. So I do a little over 10 per year. Granted, most of them are mini partials, but lately I've been doing a lot more full suits, because that's what people commission. He's such a pretty boy. Yeah, well, here's the crazy part. I don't know how I did that, quite honestly, because it was... I mean, I'm sure a lot of it was just that there's a lot of small details I didn't do. Like, when I first started making it, I didn't line my eyes at all. I just left them raw, which looked like shit. But then I learned, and I started adding that. And I didn't used to line my fursuit heads because I couldn't figure out how to do it nicely. That's actually a very recent thing for me. I didn't finally figure out how to actually get lining to work in a head until, like, last year. I had it down for hand paws and feet paws and bodysuits. The insides of head bases, though, could not get it to work for the life of me. Don't know why. But now it just works. I don't know what changed, but it just works. But yeah, when I first started making fursuits, I was working 2 jobs. I was working at a pizza place and I was working at McDonald's. And I was also a full-time student in college. So I don't know where I got the time to make that. Granted, most of them were mini partials, but still, 15 mini partials in a year is insane. And I think that's when I did Patch and Alfie as well. You got glitter on you, Bingus. Bingus is a glittery baby. So I don't know. Friggin' 20-year-old me was a different breed, I tell you what. Because current me cannot, no matter how hard I try, I'm not keeping up with that. Which, I think that's kind of a poor thing to do, is to compare me to even past me. Because, like I said, past me didn't do a lot of the stuff that current me does. Like, past me didn't used to line my heads or line my eyeballs. Past me didn't do a lot for hair or anything like I didn't do pockets or anything fancy like that. I hardly did zippers and heads, you know? And a lot of what I did was a lot more simple in design. I gotta trim these ears because this just looks like shit. Like this ear trimming, I didn't used to do a lot of this detail trimming when I was first starting out because I didn't know any better. I used a lot of shittier, cheaper furs because I didn't know any better. Like there's a lot that has changed with my quality over the years, and quality takes more time, is I think the long and the short of it. But it's kind of one of those things that I forget every now and then, because I look at what I did this year, and I did less commissions this year compared to any other year that I've done fursuits. And I'm like, man, that kind of sucks. But then I realized that a lot of those commissions were really big commissions. Like I had Civil Suit. They were the big brown otter I did. They had so many extras in their suit. Like their body was fully lined, head to toe, full lining. There was pockets and pretty much everything. I can't remember if we ended up doing the mouth band for them or not. I think they had finger escapes if I remember right too. And that takes a while. Like that takes a few days of sewing just to do finger escapes because that's all hand sewn for me. And then they had pretty much every other extra I could offer almost. On top of the fact that they had a head bag and a plushie and a couple other things that I ended up having to make on top of the full suit itself. And it was a full digi suit. So, and that still took me 6 weeks from start to finish, about 6 or 7 weeks to complete. Which honestly is not a bad turnaround for a suit with that many details and stuff, you know? Like that's, compared to the overall community, that's a pretty quick time. But to me, it's like, man, I took more than a month to finish a suit. That sucks. But that's because old me was barely doing shit in my suits. Like, it was just put suit together, no extras. Done in a month. And that's it, you know? So it's like a case of I did do a lot, it just doesn't feel like it. This is an awkward angle to have to trim. But I think this year, I can go back. I can look, because I have a Trello queue. That's the real reason I have the Trello queue, is so that way I can look at it. Because I like knowing what I did throughout the year and stuff. So if we look at 2025 my Trello, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 suit commissions this year. Most of those were parts commissions, or like Nave had his refurb this year. But then there were a couple really big digi commissions as well. And that's just the fursuit commissions. You know, like I also did a bunch of badges, I did a bunch of telegram stickers. I went to Umicon this year and vended there, so I had to prep a bunch of stuff to vend. Like I published 2 coloring books this year. That was all this year, like before February. I think like March was when I finished the second set, the second edition. So it's like I did do a lot. It just doesn't feel like it because it wasn't all fursuit commissions, you know? Which is kind of funny, but also it's the way it goes, you know? Like, and now I get to sit here and brag and say, yeah, I've published a couple books. They were coloring books, but I published a couple books. Like that took a lot of work to do, you know, because I had to draw them from straight up cover to front cover to back cover all the way through. I drew every image from start to finish. And then I had to self-publish it, which was a pain in the ass, especially as someone who didn't know how to do that. Yes, exactly. Comparing to other things is just awful, and it's a really bad habit that I'm in, you know? Like, it's something I need to learn to not do. I get what I call the eepy weepies late at night at 3 a.m. when I'm super tired, because I'll be scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, you know, desperately trying to fall asleep because the insomnia is real. And I'll see like Spilt Grape Soda or Bamboo or any of the other big name makers out there. And I'll see how perfect, like how crisp their shave jobs look. Or like the unique thoughts and ideas and these really cool designs that they get to do and how well they turn out. And it makes me so upset because it's like, I never get commissioned for the super complicated. Like, I would love to do I would hate to do a Sparkle Dog. But I would love to do a Sparkle Dog, you know? Like, it would be so cool to get to do a Sparkle Dog, but it'd be so much work that I'd be like, oh my god, it's a Sparkle Dog. You know? But, like, I never get a chance to do that. It's like, I wish my shaves were that crisp, and I wish it was, you know, I could do all those details with the really cool stuff. I wish I could do the stuff with the, you know... Like, I'll never be as good as all these other makers, yada yada bullshit. And it's just, like, it's those nights where it's like, I really want to stop doing what I'm doing. And it's just, it's very sad. And, like I said, even comparing to my old suits, like, on the timelines, like, I wish I could finish a full suit in a month. That's unrealistic for me now, simply because there's so much that goes into these suits. Like, my old suits didn't have the level of detail that these ones have. Because, like, this guy, you know, he's got the eyeliner, he's got 3D printed teeth, he's got a stretchy metallic material for his tongue, his mouth is fully lined, his eyes are lined, the entirety of the inside of his head is lined, even though there was a really complicated 3D printed box I had to make, and this 3D printed little thing for his LEDs I had to make. I even got it to the point where you can entirely take out the LEDs, because that was very important to me, that I could take the LEDs out so I could actually dunk this motherfucker in the tub, you know? And, like, my old eyes were painted eyes. They weren't sublimated, they weren't waterproof, they were just painted with acrylic paint on buckram. Like, there's a lot of details. Like, I've got this little pocket for the battery pack that I don't know where it's at. It's somewhere. Over there. And, like, I didn't used to do any sort of electronics when I first started out. But now I've got, like, mouth fans and LEDs and this perfect little spot for the battery pack inside the noggin. And it's great. And then it plugs into the LEDs and he lights up and it's a whole thing. And, like, the LEDs were a pain in the ass. I've spent... This is the big thing, is this project has taken me much longer than any of the other suit projects I've done, solely because of the planning that has gone into, like, physically making it. I've spent about a month and a half so far putting these together, and I've got the head and the hand paws done, right? Which doesn't sound like a lot, but I spent about 6 months just planning and researching the LEDs. Because it was something I really wanted to do, but I wanted to make sure I did it right. And I had to make sure I was buying the right materials, I had to figure out how to code them, I had to figure out how to wire them. I had to buy a new soldering iron because I used to just have a woodworking tool, and that was shit. I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I had to buy a new soldering iron, I had to buy more soldering iron tips, I had to buy all of the electronics and learn how to use an Arduino and stuff like that I never thought I was going to do. But now I did it, and, like, that's a big thing for me as someone who has never coded before in my life and never done shit with electronics aside from using my laptop. It took a lot just to get to this point. Past me would have never done this shit, you know? And I think that is something to be proud of, despite the fact that I feel like I shouldn't be when I compare myself to past me, you know? Like, meh, you know? But now we're officially at the point where I can go on my Trello and mark the heads as done. They are Dunyan rings. Which means we now get to move on to the next point, which also took a decent bit of planning to get to where we're at, which is the tails. Because I'm doing another big new thing for me, and that is going to be a silicone core tail. Big things about silicone. It's expensive. Silicone is so fucking expensive. But also, I do not have the space or the money to make my own silicone molds to do stuff like what Jay's Boingy Tales is doing, right? And Jay's pointy tails are fucking amazing. They're phenomenal, and I wish I could do stuff like that. Oh god, my computer's dying. I'll be right back. I gotta get my computer cord. Hold on. Hold on, panic. Panic and run. Hold on. I got the power cord. We're good. I knew like half an hour ago I was going to need to charge my computer. I don't know why I didn't get it then, but nobody said I was smart. Nobody said I was smart. But yeah, silicone on its own, super expensive. Very super expensive. And getting one from a furry, specifically for the use in fursuit tails, is even more so expensive, just to get the cores. So instead I went to the kink stores. These are Mr. S leather tails, and these are generally used for pup play. But look at that wag. That is a good wig wag. And I'm going to see if I can't make a very hypermotion tail using these. Now, these were still not cheap. These were still like, how much did I pay? These were marked at $60. I paid more than $60 for these. I paid $80. This one says $80, this one says $60. I paid $80 for both of these a piece. So I spent $160 just on this. But I want to see if it'll work. Problem number one. That is not centered at all, so that sucks. And I can't really fix it because it's kind of adhered in the base. There's no real fixing of that. This one's fine. This one I'm a little disappointed by, but that's okay. It's for learning. But also, the thing I don't like about a lot of hypermotion tails is a lot of them stick straight out, which is part of what gets them their hypermotion. I don't want them to stick straight out from me, right? I don't want to put fabric on it and have the tail straight out from that way. I don't like how much space it takes up. I don't like the odds of me turning around and knocking something off of an end table, stuff like that. That's just me. But I do want it to wag. So what if we flip this fucker upside down and we make a tail pattern that's going to fit this nicely to where I can wig. And I'll have this and I'll have a weighted tail tip is my plan. How I'm going to weight that tail tip, I don't know. I might do the fishing weights like I do for floppy ears. How's it going, bud? Oh, big stretch. Oh, big stretch, you know. Or I might just put extra stuffing in the bottom and leave the top a little bit less stuffed. I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. But that's our plan for today, is we're going to figure out how we can get these, which, oh my god, there's so much fur on these just from existing. It may work, it may not work. If it does work, it's something that I would offer for commission, which is the big part of this. It's like, this is all a test run for all of it. The LEDs, the ear vents, the silicone cores. It's all testing, specifically so that way I can offer it as a commission later on. We're just gonna... No, I won't do that. I gotta get my big old roll, but it's behind things. I don't wanna. But we're gonna, because we gotta. Sorry, child. I'm scaring the dogs by moving stuff around. Ooh, that shouldn't be there. Like I said, the office is a little bit of a mess at the moment. Come on, you. shape. This is 900 feet of paper. Because I can. Why not, you know? Why the fuck not? So I'm just going to cut off with my big scissors. I don't want to use my good scissors. This big old chunk here. And honestly, this would probably be easier to do on the floor than on the desk. So, let's go on an adventure, why don't we? Bring this one because that one actually sits properly. Adventure time! Come on, children. And you can see the office is a great big old mess. Because why wouldn't it be? And now you get to be short. And too close. Okay, cool. Backing it up. I'm using a new camera, so the range of how far and how close you need to be to see things is still a learning curve for me. But we're figuring it out. We got this. We got this in our big old piece of brown paper. But I also need to figure out what I'm doing. What am I doing? We'll never know. That never closed properly. There we go. I should get that fixed. Someday. In the future. Okay. So I originally based the tail design I was going for off of my other tail design. Specifically off of this one. Because this is what I usually use for canine tails. And I was just going to do a shorter version of that. I guess you can't see. I'm realizing now. This one. It's not a good angle. I hate to tell you. This is not a good camera angle. But this is what I usually do for my canine tails. This is one of the pre-made ones I made for the con. So I was going to do something like that. But I'm going to have to modify slightly to get it to work with this. So we're going to assume that flipping the paper matters. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We want our base to be large enough to actually fit shit. I don't know what the circumference of this is. I'm gonna have to find that out. Sir, shut up. Dog's just over here whining because he's bored. Just going to trace this. And that is our tail core shape. So what I really want I don't really know what I want. Because I know I want like a medium-sized tail. Which, I suppose if this is where I'm at, this is where my knee is. This is floor, this is my knee. I want it to go down past my knee. I know that much. So I'm just kind of gonna we're gonna see what I can do until I like it. Which, this is kind of like a mini version of my normal large tails. And we're, again, really just kind of going for a standard canine tail. the biggest thing is making sure that the base fits this base and also fits the core inside of it nicely to where it'll wag good. We want a good wig wag. Which I'm hoping that as long as this is secure, and cause like this still wags pretty good, you know, like it's not the most insane wiggle waggle, but it still wags pretty good. And I think if you're like running around doing stuff, it'll whoop real good, you know. It's not as good as upright, but I don't want an upright tail, unfortunately. And if once we put fabric on it anyway, it would be more of an out tail, which we don't want. I had considered putting this upside down and putting the fur on it, but then that puts a lot of strain on this joint here, where it wiggles up and down, which first off can lead to tearing the silicone. I know that much. I know a little bit too much about silicone to risk that, but also it can only bend so far, which means it wouldn't work and it wouldn't wag anymore. Like it would kind of just not go anywhere else because there's already tension on that angle. So it's not going to stress out any of its other angles, if that makes sense. Like, essentially how silicone works is it can go really far in any direction, but it can only go really far pretty much in just one direction at a time, right? You can't go really far this way and then also really far this way. It doesn't really work. So if I already have it stretched out like this, it's not going to wag as well across the board because it's already stretched in a direction. So we're just going to try to leave it as neutral as possible and wiggy 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 in the tail. And hopefully this works. But, okay, big thing. I need to figure out what the... It doesn't help that it has these, which are on the sides, thankfully. So that just means I'm essentially going to cover this portion of it and stitch that around. But I need to figure out what this circumference is. So I'm just going to kind of make a pseudo circle here. And the easiest way to figure out a circumference of a circle is by finding the diameter or the radius. There we go. So diameter of our circle. Where is my... I think tape measure's on the desk. There it is. Diameter of our circle is almost exactly 4 inches. So, circumference, because I don't remember how to do the math, of circle diameter 4. The circumference is 12. And since this is half of our tail, this whole thing needs to be 6 inches because that's half of our circumference, if that makes sense, right? This baseline here where the tail connects is going to be our circumference of our circle. So this needs to be 6 inches at most, preferably in general. But we did go a little bit bigger than 6 inches, so... This is 6 inches. There we go. So now our base is where we actually want it to be. And then, because this is the shape I want, I don't know how well you guys can actually see it on camera. This is the shape that I want, but when you make something from a flat to a circle, you're going to curve it, right? So like this whole shape here, you curve it, suddenly it's not the same thickness anymore, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of an outline. I'd like to add about ½ inch to 1 inch all the way around. And I find that this just gives enough extra fabric for that curve shape, for that curve to fill in that area we want, right? Except where our base is, we are not going to curve because we need that base to be exactly 6 inches. We know that. If it's bigger, it's going to be a problem. And we don't want that. But also, we kind of want this to stick out a little bit more, just to give it that weightedness. There we go. Alright, so I think that's our pattern for our tail. I think. I still need to draw the actual design, which is the hard part. Oh god, this is going to pain my butt. My computer's way over here where I can't see. And can you guys hear me well while I'm down there, or am I just blabbing to the void? Do I need to bring my microphone with me? Or are we good? I don't know how well it's picking up for me on the floor. Oh god, this design's awful. Who designed this? It was me. Shit. And let me guess, the other one looks different because it sure do. It sure do look different. Why fucking wouldn't it? I hate past me, just FYI. Okay, well here, we'll do this. Now you're at the edge of the desk, so then hopefully it won't be super quiet. And I'm going to bring my laptop down with me. There we go. So that way I can actually look at my reference sheet. So this is our tail. Upside, our tail design does ultimately look very much like what I had originally designed. Although, I do kind of want to bring this tail out a bit more. Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't help that there's a hole in the paper right there. There we go. Alright. So we've got, at the bottom of our tail here, there is like right about here, a straight horizontal line. There's a line right about here. Now this is very important because this entire design is very geometric. And then this, because this goes, oh god, it does not help that the tail is not actually the shape I originally designed. It's pretty close, but it's not. And then I don't think that's what I wanted. No, actually, that looks pretty good. This line here looks pretty good. This needs to be a little bit more steep than it is. And then on my reference sheet, the angle changes here, but I don't think I really like that. So we're going to leave that as a straight cut line, because I said so. Then we have along here, right? Kind of making this a tube. The real question is, how fat of a tube are we making it? We're going to make it just a little bit skinnier. There we go. Now, I can't erase it because I don't have an eraser. We're just going to go over the lines we actually want in Sharpie. And that will solve all of our problems. Oh, shit. It only solves our problems if we know how to actually draw a straight line, though. There we go. I don't remember which line I was falling for down there anymore. That's okay. And that should be the pattern of our tail. Now the hard part is right here. Came down like this. And I think we wanted to stay a little bit more shallow than we were. There we go. That's a good line. That is a nice curve. Good shit, good shit. So now hopefully this will actually wag. If not, I'm going to put a different gore patch on it later. And that'll be the vibes. I'm realizing now also that you guys can't see shit because I'm like leaning over it. But yeah, this is our tail pattern. And they are both the same tail, but they have a different color pattern. So we've got, for my suit, the lighter colored suit, we've got a white tip. We've got a light gray for this whole section. And then we've got dark gray for that section. And then this is medium gray. And I gotta draw fur direction. Fur direction. Fur direction. There we go. Alright. So that's our fur directions, and that's all of the colors for that one. Oh, that's the wrong way. And then for him, for the other one, this is all white, unfortunately. This is dark, and this is also dark. So these two sections are the same color, and then this is medium gray. Because he doesn't use the light gray at all. Which means that when I go to cut this out, I don't actually want to cut out these two pieces separate from each other at first. I want to leave them as the same. That way I can just trace them straight up and stitch them on. And then I'll cut them apart for the other tail because they are different colors on the other tail. Which is also what I did for a lot of the neck pieces because the colors were weird. Forrest is mad because he's trapped behind all the crap in the office now because I moved it all in front of the doorway. I hear my phone somewhere. Oh, there's my phone. It's my mother. She's asking if I got my car fixed. I did, by the way. It was very expensive. But at least it didn't take too long. It only took them like an hour. Which makes me think it shouldn't have been as expensive as it was, but you know. It is what it is. Oh, is that why you're complaining? Oh. I thought he was complaining this whole time because he's bored. It's his dinner time, and he is starving. He is so hungry. He'll be okay. We're almost done streaming, so he will be a-okay, I promise. He's just a big baby about it. This is the same dog that asks me for dinner an hour before dinner time, so... Now the real question is, how much of these tails am I accidentally going to get done off stream rather than on stream like I need to? But I realize, like, every time I come on stream to start streaming the suits again, I'm like 30 years ahead of where I was the last time I streamed. And like a lot of that is because there's a lot of parts of fursuit making I don't like doing on stream. Like particularly anything with the shaving or the sewing machine, right? I don't like doing sewing machine stuff on stream because it's loud. And then I can't talk to you guys. But shaving is also loud, and I can barely see or talk to you guys. So I don't really like doing that on stream either. But that's just me. I'm a weirdo like that. And also a lot of times I'm just not up for streaming a lot of days. So what ends up happening is I do the work I would have done on stream, but instead of it being on stream, it's just in my living room while watching a show or something. What are you snorting about over there? The baby man's is over there snorting. There we go. Go like this. Very carefully. We'll see how this turns out on the tails. But I'm fairly certain that for these angles, right, like on this piece has a lot of sharp angles, but because they're so small, they're like barely an inch each, I have a feeling that it's not going to show up well on the fur. So this is probably going to be a section that I'll have to trim a lot. I might trim all of the colors on the tails, I don't know. But this section, where it's particularly angular, is going to get trimmed. That is for certain. But yeah, like I said, I'm leaving these two pieces together, because for the one tail I do need them to be together, and then for the other tail I'll cut that extra line and call that good. But since the dogs are starving, they are in fact melting away as we speak. We're gonna call it good for today, I think. And we're gonna go skedaddle on over to whoever. Let's see here. Ooh, guys, there's a rug tufting. There's furry rug tufting. We're popping over there, I'm telling you right now. So we're gonna do that, and I will see you guys the next time I stream. Eventually. I'm not sure when I'm gonna stream next, so bye.